Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the EFL Fantasy Podcast. My name is Angus,
And my name is Dan.
and we're here to do a brief rundown of Game Week 36 and look ahead to Game Week 37. Obviously, Game Week 36 was one of the big sort of doubles that everyone was focusing on. Dan, how did it go for you this week?
Not great. I used my final boost, which was Goal Fest. I scored 138. Captain Solanke, vice captain Mitrovic, McNair got 15, Zamora 9, Wilson 30, Baker 17. That was basically it. I decided to bench Gibbs White, which wasn't great considering he got 24. So that's probably the difference between me getting a green and a red arrow. So I've dropped, I think, about 6 places to 189. Obviously, no boost now. And with blank game week 39, I've got to do a bit of planning to get myself out of this mess now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it feels a little bit of what if. I mean, I still scored 158 minus 8, so 150 net, which was good for a green arrow to 75th, small green arrow, but to 75th overall. The more in goal, he got me 5. I had McNair 15, Egan 12, Wilson 30, Gibbs White 29, Bassi, great transfer in 12, Mitrovic vice captain 23, Solanke captain 20. There's a little bit of sort of pain for me taking an extra hit to buy Cal Naismith, who obviously only got 2 points, and benching Toffolo, who got a 12-pointer. So that one was a little bit annoying, but overall, sort of moving in the right direction is the main thing. And looking forward now to sort of working out what I'm going to do, much the same as you. It's a bit of a tough one. so
It's
I
easy
just
for
got to
you. At least
work
you got a
out.
boost left.
Yes, but I'm on, in terms of the blank 39, we'll come on to it in a bit. But yeah, it affects my team a little bit. But in terms of the sort of, what happened in game week 36, we're just going to touch a little bit on some of the better sort of performers or anything. So is there anyone in particular that you want to highlight, Dan, rather than sort of going through everyone and every game? For the
I
listeners, we're recording on Thursday night to get it out for you on Friday. So obviously we can't do a full roundup. So yeah, anyone you want to sort of pick out?
I think Sheffield United were probably the main team this game week. Um, Obviously, they played on the Friday night, 1-1 draw with Forest. I thought Forest were very good in the first half. Um, in the second half, Sheffield United scored. Billy Sharp backstick, Gibbs White cross. And then they sort of got sucker punched at the last minute, even though a draw was probably a fair result. But I think the more impressive performance was the one on Tuesday night, the 4-1 win over Middlesbrough, who I think we both think Middlesbrough will probably be one of the 4 teams in the playoffs. And they absolutely dominated them. Um, Gibbs White with another goal and an assist. Yeah, he's the main player. So it was a bit unfortunate for me. I thought we'd have two pretty even games, and the first one was even, and obviously Gibbs White got the assist. And then this one, I was expecting maybe like a draw or 1-0, and it was 4-1. So it wasn't ideal for me, but I think it just shows how good Gibbs White is and Sheffield United are as a whole.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Sheffield United are obviously the standouts. It's a little bit boring, but I'll mention Fulham. They've come through, particularly with some other teams dropping points or having fewer games, and Fulham have really capitalised to the maximum this week. sort of almost putting to bed really any thoughts that anyone might have had about catching them. I think sort of hard fought win over a tough Blackburn team. They could have probably have had more goals, but that's a tough Blackburn team to face, and so to get the result is obviously big there. And then dispatching Swansea on Tuesday night. It's really sort of getting the job done. Obviously, a lot of people who have their assets in Gaffer will be sort of very pleased with them. The other one that I'm going to mention for slightly different reasons, but in a similar area of the table, is Bournemouth.
Yeah, I was going to mention them.
So obviously, those of you who've been listening to us for a while will know that I don't exactly have the highest opinion of Scott Parker as a manager. And I've talked about we've seen his teams, particularly last time he was in the Championship, kind of bottle it down the stretch, and feels like it might be starting up again. They lose to Preston, and then they have to come from behind to draw with Peterborough. Drawing with Peterborough, particularly having to come from behind to do so, is about as bad as it gets in the Championship at the moment. And losing to Preston, Preston are a strange team still at this point. They can beat anyone and lose to anyone, basically. But when they were already putting a little bit of a concerning trend together, to then take 1 point from those two games, and you do worry about them a little bit. With the likes, the other one that I was going to mention, which will go under the radar because they didn't double, was Huddersfield getting another sort of good performance on the board. Unfortunately for them, they then went out of the FA Cup on Monday night, but another really positive performance. Yes, it's against the aforementioned Peterborough, but they did the business and they did it emphatically. And I think they'll be looking at it now and really starting to believe that top two spot might be on. And I think it's credit to the work that Corberan has done. I remember, not so long ago, the fans really weren't convinced about him and whether he should stay. And it shows that sometimes giving a manager a bit of time, a bit of patience to implement what they want to do, and potentially give them the right personnel, and that might take a little bit of time. It's sort of showing that it really can bear fruit at this point with what Huddersfield are doing. So those were the other two that I wanted to mention. I don't know if there were any other teams that you wanted to touch on, or if there was anything you wanted to add on either of those.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a bit about Bournemouth. And Scott Parker, bear in mind, got the game against Peterborough back to 1-1 in the 52nd minute. And he waited till the 80th minute to do his first sub, and then he done a double change on the 87th minute. Like, what is he doing? Like, I know the fans aren't too happy with him because with that squad, they should be doing similar to what Fulham are doing, hammering teams, and they've not been doing it all season. They basically go a goal up and then they sit back and try and hold on and hit teams on the counter, but it's not working now. And yes, they've got the 3 games in hand, so they'll probably will still go up in second. But if the matches, they've got a fairly okay run, the next 2 with Derby and Reading at home, but then their run towards the end, they basically play a lot of the sides top half,
Yeah.
or teams chasing the playoffs. So if they don't have a big enough gap, there's going to be real big pressure on them. In a few weeks, they've got Huddersfield, West Brom, Sheffield United, Middlesbrough, Coventry, Fulham, Blackburn, Forest, Millwall. That's a very hard run to keep going Saturday, Tuesday. So yeah, I'm worried with them. I'm not too impressed with being triple or up on them. And
Yeah.
I've got Billing, who's now suspended for the next 2 games.
Yep.
So yeah, Billing's going this week.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of a killer for people. I think with billing, particularly because it's the 10th yellow. That means it's 2 games. Um, but yeah, I mean Bournemouth are in second at the moment. I guess we should provide that little bit of context. They are in second with games in hand. Like, they would still be the favourites, but they do need to sort of, if nothing else, they do just need to start picking up a run of points, a run of results.
Yeah.
Because the longer they let the likes of Huddersfield stick around and maybe even someone like Sheffield United get into it, the more of a problem they're potentially creating for themselves with that tough sort of run to the finish. Um, yeah, I mean, there were a couple of teams that did themselves, a couple of favours this week. I mean, Derby potentially getting the win against Barnsley in what was obviously a massive match. I mean, Barnsley will then feel pretty sort of underwhelmed and disappointed. They could have got that sort of result rectified immediately against Stoke, and then they concede an equaliser in added time. I know we were talking about it, and we think it was one of the biggest goals of the game week, the Lewis Baker goal, which obviously will have helped a few on Goalfest as well. But it made a big difference there to any sort of hopes they would have had. And I just wanted to mention, because I laughed at them, and I'll continue to laugh at them for their performance in the Blackburn game. But Millwall went into a double of Reading away and Blackburn away, and came away with 4 points. And they are moving ever closer to the playoff spots now. They're suddenly in 9th, only 4 points off the playoffs. And I just thought it was mentioning them. It was worth mentioning them and giving them a little bit of credit, even though I will laugh at them for not even having a single shot. Not even just sort of like someone having a pot from 30 yards out, or anything like that against Blackburn. 0 shots.
Yeah, you get the feeling Millwall are just going to finish probably between 8th and 12th. Like, you get the feeling they'll just be maybe just below the playoffs. Because you get the feeling maybe they'll draw a few too many games. I know they've been on a great run recently, though. What was it, 5 out of the last 6 wins, I think?
Yeah, I think the big thing for them, and I think it's a credit to them anyway, but I think they will be there essentially keeping the teams above them honest. So if multiple of them sort of slip or anything, like, I think Millwall will put one of these teams that might put themselves in position to take advantage of any sort of poor run, but they're probably going to need some help from others to actually get into the playoffs. But yeah, I don't think there's much else game week 36 related. One final team. I have one final team that was on my list. Stoke City. Stoke City going into a double game week of Blackpool at home, Barnsley away. They come out with 1 point by virtue of an added time equaliser against Barnsley. And I know we've talked about in our chat about sort of things like the number of injuries they've had to deal with to key players this season, which stagnated their run a little bit when they were moving up the table. The run without Nick Powell, without sort of Mario Vrancic, Harry Suter, the time he's been out, Tyrese Campbell, etc. But the run they're on at the moment is incredibly bad. We thought they'd really found something when they went to the 4-2-3-1. They've randomly gone back to the 3-5-2, and no matter how many points they drop playing the 3-5-2, they're still playing the 3-5-2. I know you have stronger thoughts than me on Michael O'Neill, so shall we just round off game week 36 with a couple of words about Michael O'Neill?
I just don't think he's that good. Like, he done a good job the first season because they were in a mess, but this squad should be challenging towards the playoffs. And I know they've had injuries, but every club's had injuries now. for example, Luton at the start had no recognised centre backs. The last few weeks, we've been chopping and changing midfielders. We then had a few weeks where we didn't have Adebayo and Cornick. So I'm sorry, Stoke are 15th.
Yeah.
Like that's not good enough with their budget. I just didn't get their recruitment in January at all. Like Jagielka done okay at Derby, but it was that Derby they were basically sitting in. I don't know why they signed more from Reading. Um, they sold Davis, so I thought Bursic was going to be number one, and now O'Neill just randomly keeps switching between the two, Bursic and Bonham. Um, he can't decide who to play up front, and I just I think he's got to get sacked, to be honest. And Jamie was against this 2 weeks ago, and even now he's coming around to it.
Yeah, I think it's looking increasingly like he doesn't know how to get the best out of the team, which is always a red flag. Like we say, he seemed to have something that was working, and he went away from it. And the big thing for me with the selection decisions he's making, as their season is increasingly drifting, you can maybe gain something if you start giving more minutes to a few youngsters, with an eye towards next season. And he's not even doing that. The likes of DiMaggio, Wright, Phillips are suddenly getting far fewer minutes, where it's like that's something you could be looking towards next season with, and he's not even doing that. So you're not really helping yourself in the short term, in the immediate term, or the longer term. So that would be the concern there. I wouldn't go as far as to say target Stoke when it comes to Gaffer, but I would certainly say don't be like afraid of them. Like if you've got players against them, it's not a concern at all.
No, it's not. Not when Moore is playing centre back.
Yeah, it's not great there. But we'll move on to sort of look ahead to game week 37, and we'll do that essentially in two parts. We'll sort of look at your questions that you've sent to us, and we will then do our sort of normal predictions and sort of our in terms of result and sort of best asset from each game. So we've had quite a few questions this week, I think. I have to get them from two places. So first I'll go on Twitter, and I think this will help us address some of the main talking points ahead of game week 37. I know we wanted to talk about game week 39, but I knew there was a question about it. So I'll start with David Strom's question because it's the first one that's on there. He says, what to do for the blank? Many will have 3 times Fulham and Forest. Is it underhaul time, or is it better to ride it out and use a boost in the double? So obviously we've got the 3 games that are off in game week 39, which is Blackpool, Preston, Forest, Fulham, and
Cardiff
Borough, that's it. Obviously due to the progression of Borough and Forest in the FA Cup, and Blackpool, Preston has moved from game week 39 to game week 40 due to a request from the police due to the Conservative Party conference, which is a little bit different. So obviously that's going to affect a few people. Obviously from my personal point of view, that means I have 6 players in my squad currently who are out in game week 39, and obviously the downside for me is I sold Brennan Johnson this week, and I was thinking about sort of immediately getting him back, but obviously he blanks in game week 39 as well. So from my personal point of view on the underhaul, I think those are the 2 distinct ways to go about it, and I think it partially depends on how many boosts you've got left and what you've got left. And for example, if you've played 2 boosts and you've played Jeepers Keepers and Goalfest, I think that's probably where you can give a bit more consideration to underhaul 39. because even though I think you might be able to gain on something like midfield dynamos in game week 40, it's how much you would have to take out of your team to get around game week 39 and back to 40, and how much, like, whether you'd be able to maximize the points in the next couple of weeks. Say you got in the likes of, you had triple Fulham and Spence and Johnson and like Drama and McNair, and you have all these players, and you make the most of them, and then you underhaul in game week 39, and then you've still got those players afterwards. Or you sort of look at it and say, can you get some of those players out ahead of game week 39? Like, for me, there's probably a couple that I can sacrifice in the meantime. Someone like Drama, he's been good for me, but doesn't have a double in 40. Blanks in 39, doesn't have a double in 40, so that's someone that I can potentially move on. Maybe someone like Isaiah Jones as well. He's good player, but not necessarily on a run in terms of returns, so I could potentially look to move on from someone like him. Carvalho, even though he's playing very well, I've got a plan to potentially sell him and then buy Nico Williams in game week 40, that sort of thing. So I think it really does depend on your personal circumstances for me, but I don't hate the underhaul 39 idea. Dan, I don't know what your thoughts are on game week 39.
Yes, so I don't have any boosts at all. I've got 6 players that are blanking, so that's not ideal. So I'm probably just gonna take 3 out and then just play with 11 and hope that they all turn up. To be honest, I've got the 3 Fulham lads: Mitrovic, Wilson, and Carvalho. Like you said, I think Carvalho will probably be one that will leave the team. I've also got McNair, Spence, and Drama. So Drama will probably go as well. And it's just Spence or McNair, probably who else goes. What isn't helping my team at the minute is I've got Billing and Naismith as well. So it's not ideal. And Billing's definitely missing the next 2. So it's going to be a few points, I think, the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think that it's also, I guess, depending on what sort of manager you are, how much you're comfortable with in terms of hits as well. If you're not someone, for example, who likes to take hits or likes to take more than a -4, then your calculation might become different on whether something like an underhaul or even an overhaul is worthwhile.
Yeah.
The next question I've got in front of me here is from FPL Commander. He says he skipped Goalfest last game week after hearing the answer to his question, but in real life I just forgot about all gaffer deadlines this game week. So I may regret it, but was thinking Goalfest in 40 and Jeepers Keepers later as my last chip used. Would that be more viable? What do you think on that, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah, I think
you don't really need Jeep.
Yeah, go on.
With Jeepers Keepers, it's so easy to plan for. Most it'll probably only be a -4, so to play it in when there's not as many double makes sense, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing I've spoken about. I mean, I've ended up playing Goalfest in 36, but I've talked about 40 particularly because I'll say it again because I saw people forgetting it. Goals scored on your bench still count for you. The other points on your bench don't count, but goals scored on your bench still count for you. So obviously, potentially being able to really make the most of it in 40, and then that sort of double in 44, could be a good one for something like a Jeepers Keepers, particularly given how few people will have a boost left at that point. That's another way you can potentially gain at that point later in the season as well. So yeah, I think you're on the right lines there. The next one we've got is from Petteri Annonen. He said, learning from game week 36, which boost seems to be the best ones for game week 40? He also says we should already start to build for it. So Dan, what do you think? Which boost seems to be the best one for game week 40?
I still think it's Goalfest. I think we saw midfield dynamos done all right because of Wilson and Gibbs White, but home advantage, I don't think done that great. It wasn't terrible because obviously Sheffield United done quite well,
Yeah,
so it did well. But the only team that done well did do well. Um, I still lean towards Goldfest over the other two, but I think midfield dynamos could work though, especially if you've got the main ones, Wilson, um, and obviously Sheffield United. They play Stoke and QPR, so that's a good one for Gibbs White.
bowler.
Bournemouth play Bowler, yeah, it's not terrible wide. Bournemouth play Bristol City, who concede quite a lot of goals. So I think Goalfest is the way to go.
Yeah,
I think it always is.
yeah. Goalfest I like for that, particularly as I've said with the sort of goals on the bench counting as well. But I would also say don't like if you have played it, and particularly if you're down to your last one, you're not going to sort of underhaul in 39 or anything in terms of 40 itself. Then I'd say midfield dynamos is the second choice for me. Shibidabidabit has said he's asked the ideal 5 mids for midfield dynamos in 40. So ideal is a little bit tough, but obviously, I mean, we've talked about Wilson, we've talked about Gibbs White. I like Bowler. Bournemouth have a decent double if you want to
I
go.
think Jed Wallace with Luton and Swansea,
Yeah.
if you can get them both.
Harry Cornick.
No, he's sharing minutes.
Um, maybe someone like an Isaiah Jones or a Matt Crooks. Middlesbrough, yes, they have Fulham, but they have a double involving Peterborough.
John Johnson with Blackpool and
Yeah.
Coventry could be decent as well. Even Preston
Yeah,
with
Daniel Johnson.
John. There's actually midfield dynamos isn't terrible. I think. I
No,
think like the talismans could do quite well.
I mean, even someone like John Swift,
Yeah,
Reading with the double of Barnsley and Stoke.
yeah.
So there's a few options there. Obviously, it then sort of depends, but I'd say something like Wilson, Gibbs, White, Swift, Wallace, and I'm going to say Bowler, but there's a few others there. Second Fulham, Daniel Johnson, Brennan Johnson. There's all sorts there. Got one from Tommy Shelby, FF Birmingham City. If you could choose one must-have player for the next game week, who would it be? I mean,
Surely we're not saying Mitrovic.
I'm trying to come up
Surely.
with something more interesting than just saying Alexander Mitrovic. I'm going to go with goal machine all of a sudden, Nico Williams.
Yeah, it's not terrible. I don't know. This is tricky. Because I looked to see who's playing Bristol City and it's Blackburn. Well, I don't want any of them. They're not scoring. Um, Peterborough, Stoke, stay away
You
from
don't
them.
want any
I'm,
of
I'm gonna
them.
go. I actually think it's Brennan Johnson, but
Yeah?
I'm not. I'm not gonna get him in because I've got too much to sort out with my team. But against Reading, yeah, I think he's gonna do well. And it was not a nice feeling watching him against Sheffield United. I know he missed the penalty, but he's so good.
Yeah. That penalty was shocking, but like,
Yeah,
and a special mention given that it's coming from a Birmingham City fan. I'll just throw Chong out there. He's back.
yeah, he's
Seems to have
back.
hit the
Yeah,
ground running immediately.
like I said, he's probably the best player I've seen live this season.
Yeah, hit the ground immediately. So yeah, I'll just throw him out there just to sort of throw you a bone. FPL full of ham said, "Is it still worth keeping hold of Willock?"
I don't think it is.
I think I was listening to. I think it was NTT 20, and they were saying that actually inadvertently Chair's return might have made particularly the output worse for Willock, because he sort of had that almost like number 10 role to himself. It was 110 behind two strikers, where now it's sort of gone back to the 2 10s behind one striker. And the way Chair moves, I think they end up wanting to occupy the same sort of spaces as well. So
we did mention this when Chair was at
yeah.
AFCON, because he went on that ridiculous run, didn't he, of returns.
Yeah, and it's not suggesting that Chair should be left out, because obviously Chair's
No.
a very good player, but it's just that knock-on effect, particularly in terms of the sort of goal and assist output for Willock.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much because they play Luton on Sunday, so I don't want.
But no, I mean, I sold him, I think, this week, and it was actually a relatively easy decision for me. So there's obviously a risk involved, but I don't think you should be sort of scared of selling him at this point.
No.
Billy Hadaway asked, best goalkeeper for game week 40 Jeepers Keepers that also plays in game week 39. He also had a cheeky add-on saying he already has Everson of Preston, so I guess that's why he wants one that also plays in 39. Given that apparently he's a penalty saver like extraordinaire now, I'm going to go Wes Fotheringham.
Yeah, it's not terrible, and you got him for the rest of the season as well. Then he's quite a decent price. Yeah, he's a good option. It's hard because I looked at Fulham and it's QPR, but Marshall's been making a few mistakes and Dieng's out now, isn't he? So
yeah. Maybe Travers, because I think then Travers is another one that you could just then leave there.
Yeah.
With the sort of doubles Bournemouth have and everything. So maybe Travers, but Fotheringham would probably be the main one that I would say. Forever QPR has asked us, IPA, lager or stout?
It's lager for me.
Depends on the mood, but the one I don't tend to go with is stout. It's a bit heavy for me.
Yeah.
So depending on the mood, either a lager or an IPA. Mark Dorney has asked, he asked if we dropped YouTube for the time being. Hopefully this one should go back out on the YouTube. I've managed to find a way. It would have been a bit weird last week. You could only see Dan's camera, so if all you wanted to watch was Dan, then I could have put it out on the YouTube, but it would have been a little bit strange.
Also be a bit worried if that's what you want to watch.
Yeah. If that's what people want to watch, we may have to set up a Patreon. If people are into that sort of thing, we might be able to make some money out.
OnlyFans.
Yeah, OnlyFans. And of course, any Gaffer game week wouldn't be complete without Neil Thompson asking us 3 questions. So these were off the Planet FPL Slack if you haven't seen them already, Dan. So the first one he's asked is, can he get a recount on the EFL Cup competition? He thinks he's about to be done by 1 point. So obviously as of Thursday night, I haven't put out an update for the EFL Cup yet, the EFL Fantasy Cup. I will put one out on Friday morning. I just haven't managed to get around to it yet. But no, there won't be any recounts. The score is final. Mainly because I can't be bothered to go through a second time. He also asks, would you do Swift to Gibbs White or a Luton mid? Both would double in 40. Swift also doubles, but fixtures are rough in 37, 38 and 39. So would you make that move of Swift out to Gibbs White or a Luton mid?
I'd go to Gibbs White. With Cornick's basically playing 60 minutes or 30 minutes, and him and Jerome are basically just rotating.
Yeah.
And we've got no other midfielders at Luton, really. So, yeah, it's Gibbs White.
And he's also asked the best option for the third striker if you hold Mitrovic and Solanke.
Now I think this is now Adebayo now
I don't think
with
you're
that one.
wrong, but
You're going to say Billy Sharp. Don't say Billy Sharp because I got rid of Billy
he
Sharp
just keeps
from my.
scoring. Like,
I
it's
know.
just like,
He's going to be 10 million next year if they don't go up.
yeah. I just keep waiting for him to sort of cool off, and there he is scoring again. I mean, the header against Forest. I mean, it's a great ball in for Gibbs White, but the header
Yeah.
that he managed to pull off from that tight angle in off the far post, like excellent. But yeah, I think Adebayo is a good shout. But those are probably the two I would look at this point. I mean, Coventry are very hit and miss at the moment. They played all three of the forwards at the weekend or midweek, and it didn't really work. So yeah, those would be the main two at the moment. I'm just trying to sort of think even of any others and there aren't many that jump to mind at
I
the
don't.
moment. It's
Archer's not terrible, but he blanks in 39.
yeah,
Like, I think that's a good run, to be honest.
yeah. If you can get away with him blanking in 39, that's a good one. And let's throw out Lucas Shaw.
Really?
Yeah,
He's got Forest, Bournemouth, and Blackburn.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I wanted to give people another option.
Yeah.
It might not work, but
What about Swansea, Piero?
I mean, I do like
That
Pirro. And he's got a couple of goals.
some people got burnt with him big time now
Yeah,
earlier on in the season.
I think I have a very different opinion to most because I got on him early when he was scoring goals and then sort of
Yeah.
sold him before the sort of the real sort of downturn where he was sort of struggling and then left out of a few games and everything, and it really put people off. So yeah, I think I just have a different viewpoint on him to a lot of people where I'm like, yeah, he's great, yeah. So that's all the questions we've had. Like I say, the cup, I'll do an update on Friday, so that should be updated before the deadline, so people know how badly situated they are.
Well, I'm out, so
Yeah,
I got beaten by James Planet FPL.
yeah, I got knocked out, so that's my excuse.
Cancel it.
I'm actually just less interested because I'm out. So yeah, someone rudely knocked me out of my own cup. But we'll go through our predictions for 37 now as a way to sort of finish off. Bear with me one moment, bring the fixtures up. Okay, and we start off with the Friday night game, which is West Brom Huddersfield. So match outcome and best asset from this game.
One thing I've got to say is I'm so glad West Brom are mid-table because Sky can't put any more of their games on TV because they're so dull to watch. They've been on about 5 or 6 times since Christmas, I think. I'm going to go draw. I'm trying to pick a defender. I'm going to go Toffolo. But I think it's going to be 0-0 probably.
Yeah, I'm going to go Huddersfield.
Ooh.
And I'm going to go with Holmes. At lunchtime on the Saturday, we've got Barnsley, Fulham.
Fulham. I'm just going to say Mitrovic. I don't think it'll be a hammering though. I think it'll be like a 2-0
Yeah.
routine.
I'm going to say Fulham, and in part because it feels like it's his turn, and in part it'd be perfect because a bunch of people are going to sell him. I'm going to say Carvalho. Next
Surely
one.
you can't sell him before Barnsley.
No, I mean I might, but I probably won't. There's other moves I can make first. The next game we've got is Bournemouth against Derby.
I'm going to go Bournemouth, Solanke. I think they'll just win it 1-0 or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Bournemouth, and I'm gonna say Christie. Birmingham against Hull.
Birmingham, Hernandez.
I'm gonna say Birmingham, and I'm gonna say Chong. Blackburn, Bristol City.
Going Blackburn. And I'm going to go Gallagher.
I was gonna try and fill time while I look up what Tony Mowbray said today, because I know he suggested at one point that Brereton Diaz had a chance of being back, but I think they're probably going to hold him out of this one.
Surely they're going to wait until after international break so you don't have to go to Chile, surely.
That's my guess. I think that they're going to try and avoid playing him so to increase the chances he doesn't go. But Cadra's back in contention, so I'll say Cadra. But I think it'll be a draw. Blackpool against Swansea.
I'm going to go Swansea, Patterson.
Blackpool and Bowler. Cardiff, Preston.
Draw, Daniel Johnson.
I'm going to go with a draw and drama.
I'm selling him.
I probably am as well. But Coventry, Sheffield United.
Sheffield United, Morgan Gibbs White.
Yeah, I'm going to go Sheffield United and Gibbs White. Millwall, Middlesbrough.
Draw, Jed Wallace.
I'm going to go with a draw and McNair.
Selling him as well, probably.
We've got Forest, Reading.
Forrest, Johnson.
I'm going to go Forest and James Garner. Peterborough, Stoke.
Probably, it's got to be Peterborough, isn't it?
I could see in your eyes you just wanted to say Peterborough.
Marriott, Jack Marriott.
I'm going to go with a draw. I don't feel confident about it. But I do think Jack Marriott will score. So I'm actually going to say him.
This will be the game where Stoke just turn up and win like 4-0 and you're just like, why aren't they be doing this for like the last 2 months?
Yeah. But yeah, I think Jack Marriott will score. So I'm gonna say him. And Luton against QPR.
I don't know this. We've got such a bad record against QPR, but we've been good at. I'm gonna say this is really hard. Probably, I think it might be a draw because we play on Sunday. If results have gone our way, I think, and we're ahead of QPR anyway, I don't think a draw will be terrible for us. So I'm going to go draw, and I'm going to go Bree.
Yeah, it's a tough one to sort of read. Both sides can have their moments. Marshall's had a couple of dodgy moments recently. Palmer probably let in a goal that he won't be thrilled about.
He done a good save though. He saved us against Coventry there a couple of times. So,
but I'm gonna go with the draw. and I'm going to say Cornick. So that's all the games. Obviously, that we've done our sort of bits and pieces of looking ahead to sort of 37 and beyond. If you have any other questions, do sort of reach out to us on Twitter. We will try and sort of help with any sort of other inquiries you have. I'll be doing all the injury news on Friday as well. I'll tweet out once I've gathered it all together. It's been a busy work week for me, so I haven't been able to sneak a head start on it. So be a busy Friday for me, but I will have it out for you before deadline. And yeah, we will be back some point before game week 38. I think it's a bit easy. It's another midweek game week, isn't it?
I might have to do it Sunday then.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, Wednesday game week, so it might be a Sunday recording then. But we'll have something out to you guys before the next deadline, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.